Okay, today I have a little AWA television. I think these are an ex-hospital one going by the connection on it, and it's got like a lock switch, I guess, on the back. What does it actually say here? Something rentals. Hospital electronic rentals or something, so yeah, that would be it. And it's a 1501. I did actually contact High Country Service Data on these, and they didn't even have a manual for this one. I'm not sure who made it, but I assume it's a Daewoo or something. I don't think it's anything made by Mitsubishi. Got some useful connections on it. Video and audio in, video audio out, automatic fine tuning, nothing special, and monitor on and off, so I guess it goes to the tuner or to the AV input. It does have a 240 and 12 volt connection, would have been the original, but I'm pretty sure the power supply had been ripped out of this and replaced with some sort of like DC to DC converter board. And I was hoping there'd be a manual available just so I could see for sure what voltage went in where, but chances are this thing will run off 12 volts on the main board anyway, but because I don't know what the actual hospital board is meant to run on. Looks like that's coming apart. Just got to watch a few things on these, and we've got a board on both sides. It does look rather Daewoo-y inside. Looks like the key switch hasn't been connected to anything. This other, is that the degaussing switch? Yeah, degaussing push button switch not connected. Oh, someone's disconnected it by the look of it. They've cut the antenna socket off, and the power sockets don't go anywhere. But I think, oh god, here we go. March 06, or March 88, 06, 88. Is it that old? Could well be. That's what I came across. I think that lead fell off when I was messing around with it. So that, I think, connects to that weird connector on the top. You got this dual sort of ring connector, which is both antenna or video and voltage. I'm trying to think where I've seen those connectors before, but they were used on a few things. And we can see here it actually does go into the tuner. So they haven't fiddled with that, they weren't using AV on it. And then there's two power connections, one which went via the power switch, and that goes back into the board. There's a fuse there, power switch, so it must be the original power switch connector, but no sign of what it used as a power supply originally. I mean, did this thing have a transformer in it? Looks like there's no speaker in it either. Oh yeah, of course, in the hospital they would have had the audio through that little handheld thing, I think, which did the remote changing of channels and whatever. Yeah, Daewoo written on the yoke there. And I can just tell looking at this board in here, it's got one of those M491BB1 memory chip things, and just the general look of the board, it's got that horrible yellow glue that tends to go brown and conductive. It's kind of your typical Daewoo looking thing. Tube actually looks like it could be a National or something, made in Japan. But the circuit board, yeah, every part of it looks Daewoo. And yeah, the fact that the connectors are all too short doesn't help. March 06, 88, so whether that is, yeah, 88's probably, would that be right for this TV? I'm trying to think when the other Daewoo's, yeah, probably would be. Would have been around the time that AWA ended as Mitsubishi, and they went for things like that C1501, I think it was a 21, they actually used to catch fire because they were Daewoo C36s, I think, chassis, and they got dry joints, I think, in the horizontal or something, and then it had the plastic surround that the board sat on was flammable, so there was a warranty recall, or proper recall on them, I think, because they caught fire, and you had to change that plastic mount and resolder some joints in them, I think. We weren't, the place I worked for weren't agents for Daewoo. So we didn't do it, but we did actually get one of the sets as a warranty from not a warranty, an insurance claim from a insurance company that got us to check it, or the loss assessor, and that one had caught fire. And I remember that one well because I ended up owning the TV because basically all the cabinet and circuit board was shot in it. But I managed to salvage a picture tube out of it and fix another TV I picked up for $5 with a busted picture tube, a little Akai one made by Samsung. And that was a great little TV, and it cost me basically $5 for what was, $300 or $400 colour TV back in those days. It was a fairly new one. And that's how I got it, was swapping the tube and then turfing the rest of that AWA in the rubbish, basically. So, not the greatest TVs and not the greatest cars they made either. Maybe they've improved these days, but not sure about that. But I guess the next thing to do is try and work out where these wires go. So one, we got one goes to the case of this thing. So that's your, that's the negative of that cap. We've got an old Phillips axial electro. And then the positive on the power switch, so hang on. B goes to the TV set, where it says power switch. So I wonder if they've disconnected, so they're bringing their wire in from their connector through the power switch into their module. That must be the input. You've got a ground, which strangely doesn't seem to be connected. Oh yeah, there it is, it's connected back to the TV. Does that go to that connector? No, it goes to the socket. So I thought, how's it, oh, was it screwed to something? Who knows? But that B line there, I guess, is the output. Oh, it says September 88 on this box. And I think this, like I say, had some sort of dodgy looking DC to DC converter in it. I don't know if it was that dodgy, but of course nothing's labelled, but I'm guessing that if I could use that green wire and possibly the other one, oh, if that's the switch, and shove 12 volts up there, we'll probably get a working TV, because I assume this chassis was made to either run directly off that 12 volt socket or off a transformer and possible regulator or something. But I think the regulator's normally on the board in these things somewhere, but I can't actually see it at the moment. So maybe that got removed. Oh, that was it. One of those LM296, I think, was a switch mode type IC. So I have no idea what it actually says. AWA on it, so that's interesting. Almost like they came out of the factory like that, or modified, not out of the AWA factory, I guess, but the local. So maybe they were involved in these, because they used to do rental. I think one of the rental TV companies, Rentlo, or one of them was AWA. So maybe there was some tie in there somewhere. Oh wait up, we've got a black wire here. I wonder if that originally, that must have gone on here somewhere. Must have gone to the earth there, I reckon. Oh, it says black there. So maybe it's an isolated output being a switch mode. I don't know that it is, but only one way to find out, I guess, is use the old multimeter and do a continuity. I was hoping I could find out what these actually took on the input. I guess that capacitor will give us some indication. And the black is isolated. I assume these are both isolated from that. So 40 volts, so it can't have been higher than 40 volts, so maybe they ran a 30 volts 3 or MM, who knows. Maybe they ran around 30 volts, a bit of a higher voltage, and then switch moded it down low. What are the output caps here? They're all, if they're on the output 25, which they must be, yeah, there's the connection VO and VN, but of course nothing says anything else about that. But I think we're probably safe to, well, if we ignore the power switch for now. Yeah, it says DC input. Oh, power switch is not that connector, it's actually a little link there. So I think if we basically disconnect that, won't worry about the power switch for now, and hook 12 volts in here. I better check it definitely. Well, that should be the ground, shouldn't it? Which one? Well, let's just check the colour on that. Which one was the V out? I think it was the green. Well, like it to be on there, but anyway, the black was the other one. So I think the black will be connected to them. Yeah, to the negative of those caps. The green wire to the positive. Oh, well, we've got a fuse there if we stuff it up, I guess. But I don't know that this TV even runs. No idea, but I thought it would be quite a cool little TV if I could get it going. Even though I don't really have a use for it. We're safe to power it up, I think we are. Let's get that set to 12 volts. I guess this should power up if all is good. We can hear the speaker going. And we've got a bit over an amp, so I'd say we should have a raster as well. So there is a speaker in here. Oh, it's over here. I was looking at the grill there. It's this yellow wire coming up here. Oh, well, there you go. And I think I see a raster. Wow. We said vertical collapse, that'd be right. There is a service switch I just noticed in this. I wonder if that's been touched. I'm going to have to get rid of that module. I can't live with that thing there. Let's flick off the power supply. And I just lost a screw out of that box. Let's get rid of this box. That's just going to be a pain in the eyes. Might be a good little power supply for something. Could probably look at the specs of that chip and the data sheet and stuff. So that's gone. I reckon that switch there is... it's not in service, it's in normal mode, so it's... I'd say we've got a vertical fault. Is that our degaussing coil? So the degaussing coil is over here, and there's another plug near it. I wonder if some wires came across into there or something. Where's my vertical out? It's not on there. That'll be horizontal out on that heatsink. What if it's just a couple of little transistors or something? I'm not seeing a chip. The yoke comes all the way over here. Oh, there's a couple of... what's H hold? A couple of small transistors on the board there. Oh, is that broken? I'm pretty sure the vertical height pot is busted. For some reason someone's bent it and broke it, possibly. Now the next thing might be to remove this board from the top. Otherwise we're going to have this annoying... it's connected by this other connector too to that. Can I sort of get it out of the way? That loosens it up a bit. Because this tube's going to have to come... just clipped on. There's a nice big crack in the front as well. That might be something to do with that pot. And it is missing a plastic screen off the front, I believe. That really does not want to come off. Usually you just tilt them and they sort of pop off. Come on, you're loose, surely. That's one thing I should do. Really should discharge this tube and disconnect it, I guess. Because the tube's probably going to have to go out of the way. That's how degaussing can come out. I guess, well, as long as we get on there, we'll be fine. Oh yeah, nice little spark in there. That definitely wanted to get me. A bit of corrosion on one of the pins there, that's interesting. You know why? Crappy Daewoo moisture collecting glue. Pretty sure they put it in them on purpose to blow them up after a while. Unfortunately with the NEC what were they, a 3430 or something, and a 4830. They were an absolute lemon of a TV. They all blew up because they put one of these blue ceramic caps under the board in the power supply somewhere with brown glue, and they all failed under warranty. So I assume there was something come back on, possibly on Daewoo for that. Certainly the chassis after that wasn't so bad, but I bet NEC tried to get some money back out of them for all the grief they got out of those TVs. But I don't think any of them got out of warranty without blowing themselves to bits. I think it used to take out the regulator IC and a few other bits, but we certainly saw a few of them, and they were generally a pretty awful chassis in those things. Come on, off you come. It should just clip up to the point that it comes off, but this of course doesn't want it. There we go. Hopefully I didn't break anything. No, everything still seems to be there. And of course the earth is still connected, and we've got the controls and stuff. I would be interested to see who made that tube, because unlikely Daewoo would have been set up to make small tubes. A lot of them were Japanese, because just they were the only ones at the factory. I think Samsung started making their own later on. Probably shouldn't be clipping it until I get all the screws out. I assume there's more. There's one. There might only be a couple of screws in this, which is nice. A lot of dust in it. Oh yeah, it's been well and truly broken off. Oh, this cap too. Been sucked out of the board on one pin. So, for once we can't blame Daewoo for this. Looks like it's had some sort of physical damage done to it. Hopefully there's no cracks in the board or anything, but I couldn't see any on the upside, on the top side. Yeah, typical Daewoo, dry joints everywhere. Looks not too bad though, but yeah, there's a few of them, whatever those transistors are. A few of these other things around here. Where is that? That's on the back of the board here somewhere, so this doesn't even look like high power. Maybe the, oh, it's the volume control around there. Maybe it's something to do with the audio. The usual TA, what are they? 7698 IC, they're in a lot of things. I wouldn't be surprised, yeah, these transistors looking fairly dry joint, especially since things have been bumped around that area. I definitely will want to go over those. Can I get the lead of that back in there? I assume that cap's probably okay. It doesn't look like it's started pulling the lead out of the cap. It's just broken. Probably good thing the solder was a bit iffy, because it saved this cap from having its leg yanked out of it. Ugh, that didn't work. Okay, so it's a 22K trim port that I need, and I do still have a good collection of them here that I scrounged off old boards and stuff over the years, mainly just so you got something in stock when you need it, or if you're building a kit or something, they're always handy. But the chances of having a 22 in the same little plastic case, who knows, probably not very high. Oh, there you go, third one I pulled out. That's a miracle. Yep, 22K. I can't even measure this one to check it was definitely, but yeah, 22KB. I guess we can check this one, make sure it's alright before I throw it in, but I don't know. Very rare you see a faulty one unless it's broken like that one. Yeah, ohms would be good. 19 to there, so it must be towards one end. That's from the wiper, obviously. And 22 across the actual resistance part. Now I resoldered that transistor, didn't I? Yeah, so I've gone over these vertical outputs. Not the best looking solder on earth. Has that got too much solder on it? Probably. That didn't unsolder the cleanest. But yeah, I'm probably lucky if I use 10 of these in my life that I've actually salvaged out of something, out of that great big collection, but occasionally they do come in handy. And that's kind of the key. You haven't been able to finish the job while you're messing around with it, rather than And I did used to do a lot of second-hand gear up, so there's no point buying new parts for second-hand things you're selling, because all the other parts are second-hand in them. And that's the kind of place this stuff come in handy. You know, it was always second-hand stuff you bought that had the weird stuff like broken trim pots and stuff, because someone had been messing with it, or multiple people have been messing with it sometimes, and or sometimes they're broken because they're damaged, dropped, or whatever. So a few second-hand parts are good for those sort of things. And like I say, if you're building a little kit or something and you just need a couple of trim pots or whatever, you can sort of salvage them out of a collection like that. Hopefully saving your trip to the electronics store or whatever. So we'll try that. I think that will more than likely fix the vertical. I'll also put the board back in place because I've got to get the tube reconnected. I don't have to put the screws back in yet. That pot can go in the rubbish either way. And the label looks very Panasonic to me. Not really worth the hassle of unscrewing it, but I might just have a quick look. I think I can just slide this bracket back a bit, and with the earth wires still in place with a bit of luck. But I have to take all the screws out. Yeah, it's interesting, they obviously imported these things for these hospital ones, but they never, High Country Service Data never got the manual for them, which is odd. Yeah, Matsushita, or Matsushita, depending how you say it, but I always think it should be pronounced Matsushita. 160 CB22. I wonder what else these were used in. What did Panasonic make with small tubes anyway? Is the next question. Hook them back over the little lugs there. I'm trying to think if Panasonic made any little sharp ones which are also rebadged Philips. Samsung made a small TV. Who else made a 5-inch colour TV? Trying to remember. There weren't a lot of them out there. There was the odd ones from Tandy and that, little Rovers and stuff. I think I've got a little Rover one here somewhere. I must find that. Maybe Panasonic or Matsushita just made tubes for other manufacturers like that and didn't make their own sets, or maybe they made them for the US or something, who knows. The Americans often got models we didn't get, or maybe they were a Japanese domestic market thing. But I can't remember. They did make clock radio, I think they were clock radio, fluorescent clock radio or something, with monochrome tubes, and they made those little, what are they called, trackers or something, little rangers. Maybe it was Ranger. Little, I think the tracker was, or Trekker or whatever, was a Philips or something, but they made little monochrome portable TVs, a lot of them. I think I've got a few of them lying around. But I can't remember a Panasonic colour. National or Panasonic in a small. But then I did see another AWA recently, a proper AWA, like Mitsubishi made one, I assume. Certainly an earlier one when Mitsubishi were making most of their sets that was a 5-inch, and I've never seen one before. It was on eBay, I think. And I've never seen the model before. The Toshiba was the other one. I've got a Toshiba here somewhere that has a weird power problem in it somewhere. Intermittent, well, it was intermittent, I think it's become permanent. That's a 5-incher. That might even have one of these tubes, unless Toshiba made their own. I wouldn't be surprised if it's... Did Hitachi made a small... I'm pretty sure there was a small Hitachi with the same size tube in it. Now that I think about it, and there must have been a few of them out there. And I didn't disconnect the earth. Always check your earth is back onto your tube here, because if you put EHT into that tube without the earth on, you'll have a high voltage on, because that's just like a capacitor. Yoke's in, Degaussing we don't really need, but I'll put it in anyway. Don't think we need the tuner in. I'll plug that back in because God knows what that is, something to do with the memory and channel selection. I think probably won't matter, but no point in tempting fate that it might cause another form of vertical collapse or something. Hopefully they can sit there without short on anything. I can hear the horizontal going. Come on, raster. Oh yes, we've got a raster. It's lacking vertical hold or something. Don't know if I can lift this up without shorting anything out. I mean, the height could be at any setting too because I fiddled with it, and the fact it hasn't got a video, it's probably just bouncing around because I haven't got a video signal into it. Can we get this onto video still? Or did they disable that function? I think they've disabled it, the mongrels. That's TV monitor, so that's another thing we're going to have a look at. That's what goes down to that connector. I wonder how they disabled that. Let's hope it's not on the main board. Don't have to pull that out again, but yeah, I reckon they've done something because it makes sense because I don't want, if it's a rental TV, power doesn't do anything. Cost channel, oh yeah, it's going up on the display. I guess we could try and tune in the RF from the pattern generator, although we don't really have a proper RF connection here. Now there's this, I don't think it's going to care too much if I just, have I got an RCA adapter thing. I don't think I've got an RCA joiner, damn it. Well, from memory you can just poke these on there, kind of think of it. It's not the best connection, but it'll do. I don't think the centre pin makes the best contact, but it is RF, so we might be able to band select. Doesn't tell you what you're on. That one's got some sign of interference. Oh, don't tell me you're going to get, oh yeah, something's happening. Oh yeah, I think we're on the low band. But I think we've hit the end of the band. But that's really annoying when you've got no idea. Ooh, have we lost horizontal sync here? Almost looked like I had it tuned in then, but we've got no vertical. And possibly, well, there's no colour shown, so that's probably not it. Oh, here we go, red screen. And it's audio. But with rolling. So where's the vertical hold on this thing? That's not a height issue. That's a good question. Was that on the outside somewhere? Trying to short those connectors out, but not a very good thing to work, are you? They're all on the end. That'd be right. Oh, we just lost signal, I think. What happened? Did I change channel, did I? I can see colour, contrast, brights. That must be friggin' hell, now we've lost power. There we go. Oh yeah, now we've lost, we've gained sync. Stopped it rolling. I might go to a different pattern, would be more use. Because, you know, basically the idea of these things, I've got way too much brightness, of course. Someone has tweaked everything on this, typical. Yeah, turn that brightness a bit there. Of course that pot was close to one end for the vertical height, so it's obviously close to the wrong end, of course. It's a little bit off centre. We've got a horizontal hold. Oh, there's a whole heap of tweakies back here, but I would assume therefore the colours, since there's so many. What do we got over here? I saw something. Nothing's labelled, but I'm not going to tweak that because it's in the colour circuit. So I think we'll just tweak that up. It's only slightly out, but for a little bit of overscan, It's actually got convergence issues, which is a bit of a worry on such a small tube, but the red's definitely out there. Where's the brightness? Oh, I've got a bit of blooming. I think that's the brightness. And they're not the highest resolution, these things. These tubes, that's contrast, I assume. And that's colour, which won't do anything at the moment. Yeah, the brightness makes it bloom a bit. Yeah, it's not the greatest geometry. Usually these little sets, you'd expect them to be near perfect. Oh, one thing we've done is upset the purity a bit, I think. That's somewhere around the right brightness, I guess. Where are we? Vertical, bright. Let's go to the grayscale. We're actually a bit dark, aren't we? Bloody vertical hold. Oh yeah, we should just see that band, so it actually isn't that bright necessarily. Full contrast. And don't worry about the colour, well, except on that. Oh, I could have just turned the colour down, couldn't I? I need to switch it off on the pattern generator, really. So I think we might need to degauss this thing. Oh, that looks alright there. Oh, maybe it's just the lights here getting on the screen. Oh yeah, that's all it is. It looked a bit washed out in areas, or lighter. No, that's not too bad. Well, I don't know if I can do much about that convergence, but the red is rather annoying there. I don't know if someone's bumped this. Looks like it's all still sealed in place from the factory, which it is. If we break that loose, try not to touch anything here that we shouldn't, because just treat everything as dangerous. Well, besides the tuner there's alright, I think. And you often got to break these, wobble them side to side to break the glue stuff on them. I can see the red moving a bit there, but it's not enough. These do not want to move, these magnets. I'm not sure I can even work out where they originally were from this. So that improves it a little bit, but of course it moves up in other places. Even that is a bit of an improvement. It's barely moved. I think the outer ones are the purity, so I won't touch them. Let's try and crack these loose. Sometimes you've got to get a little screwdriver or something in here. Now that that's loosened off, there should be a bit of gap. But you do have to be careful, they are pretty fragile. They're only like a plastic, sort of, I guess with ferrite or something, some sort of iron particles in there or something to allow it to be magnetised. And I think they've got multiple different poles in them. Like they're not just a magnet with north and south, as north and south and back again a couple of times, I think. Ooh, that really stuffed it. Let's just check our purity. Well, that'll get it a little bit better. It doesn't look so bad on the dots. It's still out. I'll have to turn that a bit more, try and really loosen these things up. Come on. You need to move them against each other often, as well as rotate them. Well, that's really upset it. That's, yeah, not bad. Now we've upset the blue a little bit, I think. That's the problem. They're actually quite hard to do, these little screens, in a way. Oh, come on. Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get it much better than that. And get one thing right, you upset something else. I guess the other thing I should check is the focus doesn't look 100%, but This has got nice conductive brown glue on it. I see the focus is the top one, it usually is. Does it say focus? Doesn't say anything. Something written there, but I can't really read it. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's definitely the focus. Ugh. Now that I can actually turn it both directions helps. Yeah, that improves the convergence a little bit, it gets out. So this has probably done quite a few hours, I'm guessing. Because when I turn it that way, we actually get all the colours separating, and even a bit of red to one side there. I think that's slightly sharper there. It's done something. Yeah, it's definitely a sharper picture by the look of it, although the convergence does look worse now for making it sharper. But of course, being in a hospital, this probably did quite a few hours work, I would think. So it's done quite well to last this long. Looks like it's probably got the original line output transformer in it, which is another thing in AWAs that tended to fail a bit. So yeah, we've got the dots there. It's a bit washed out in this light, and probably because I've got the brightness up. It's not the greatest thing. Maybe if we... that's a bit better. Doing a bit of a weird, this camera's not real happy with it. But yeah, that's pretty good. So it's a little bit off with the centering there, as you can see on the checkerboard pattern. But the red's all pretty good. I think it does go out a little bit when I lift it up like that, which is not surprising. But anyway, that's good that that actually works. But yeah, we've got the AV issue now. So let's remove power from this thing. I guess the other thing is to rewire a few things like the antenna socket. Unfortunately, they've chopped the antenna socket off here. It's just a metal thing on the back there. They've cut the wire off really close to it. I wouldn't mind putting, oh, better, before I forget it, let's tighten the ring up on their convergence rings, because otherwise they'll be able to float around a bit. Tighten that up again. Yeah, that's tube neck board's coming off a bit there. So I guess, well, can I put the front back on there? So I better try and work out. Might even unscrew that board. I've got a stubby screwdriver and see what's going on as far as connections and stuff. I don't know how you would disable. Oh, I wonder if there's a chip to switch it or something. Oh, this is a multi-pole switch, so I don't think this is gonna. It's not just like a button that switches to AV, so we're not going to have a CMOS chip or something, quad bilateral switch or whatever to switch the inputs. So I'll say they just go straight through this switch. God, these screws are tight. And I might get rid of that top socket off it. So they've actually cut a hole in the cabinet. Under that metal plate they've cut quite a large hole, so they could put the, well, I guess that's the mount to hold the thing up, so that makes sense. Yeah, they've got big nuts with the washers holding the plate on so that the TV can hang from a pole out of the ceiling basically. Other screw, even though it looks different, must hold it on. But I think it's my turn to chop all their stuff out and throw it away. Oh, that key switch, oh, that key switch connects to something. I wonder if that's what locks it out of having its other modes working or something. Now you'd think this would be manual switching. That I don't know, it looks like it goes to the micro board somewhere, but I guess we'd better have a look, see what they've done there, because that may, that's the memory chip and channel selected chip, I think, but I don't know if they did any more than that really. I'm guessing the signal from that would have come in, though when you look at this board, there's nothing connected. or nothing obvious. It's got AFT on off. That's another switch with the same amount of contacts, and they're only using 2 of them by the look at it, out of I don't know how many double pole, double throat contacts. Must have got a good deal on those switches and just used them. So that's AFT. We've got all our colour controls, but where's... I wonder if all these missing capacitors and stuff have something to do with it, because there's no wires seemingly coming from this board. Yeah, the TV monitor switch has been left... Yeah, I think it's all disconnected. There's nothing connecting that socket to the... That's where a manual would be handy. I'll have to try and find out what the original Daewoo chassis is, I guess. Yeah, so the video in comes in through a resistor, capacitor, another resistor to ground, probably 75 ohms, into a transistor which has another resistor to ground, possibly another 75 ohms, I don't know. Through another resistor that goes round, round, round into the switch, but also across here somewhere, capacitors, sort of great big mess, quite a few parts missing. So I guess ideally you would find out what the original was, what the original circuit used, and I was going to look at what that key switch did, which is a pain because I've got to take this other board off. Well, hopefully this comes out a bit easier by the look of it, because this TV, I mean, at least could be used if you could soon hook up a power pack or something to run it. A little switch mode power supply module you can buy for next to nothing these days. It'll put out a nice clean 12 volts for you. And if it was AV, it would actually be kind of useful. There must be plenty of these things floating around. You think if they're ex-hospital ones, they must have had hundreds of them, thousands of them even. I think they use these ones in Tassie here because I knew the guy that fixed hospital TVs. I'm trying to remember what they actually were. I think they were like 14-inch ones anyway, or 12-inch or something. I get a feeling they might have been AWA of some sort, but I'm trying to remember now. God, I can't remember. So we've got 3 pins here that go to this chip and they've cut, looks like one of them's ground, and they've cut this track here. Well, that track doesn't actually do anything. Oh, there's a link, yeah, okay. This yellow and red wire, so maybe they pull that pin to ground or to whatever it was originally connected. It's going to a couple of missing transistors here. So something about 5 volt out or something. Oh, 5 volt out and ground. That would have been a regulator. There's a lot of parts missing here too by the look of it. Oh yeah, you can see there it's definitely a TO220 type regulator. Whether any of this was involved in anything else, there's there quite a few other connectors and stuff, so... What was that? Oh, that was AFT, but this is all tuning stuff normally, so it wasn't uncommon to see bits missing out of these chassis. While I'm at it, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some dodgy solder joints. Oh, they look alright. Someone's been soldering stuff onto this fuse holder by the look of it, making a bit of a mess. Oh, that connection's kind of dry though. That's our power ground. Yeah, that connector's definitely had someone yanking on it a bit, I think, even before I got to it. So that connector's all been soldered big time and very badly at that. And that other one's been done, so I don't know if someone tried to resolder dry joints on this. It's not even connected up. Yeah, it is. That's some of the dodgiest soldering I've seen for a while. I think we better resolder that. Like half the pads not even covered. There's holes around the pin, like one side of it's not soldered. Great big gap there, so that's, I mean, these are the sort of things that get a few dry joints on them, but whoever tried to fix it, if that's what they were doing, made a mess. A, B, C, D, E, F, that's probably your GHB plus, probably your LED display there. Goes over there, yeah, up to the top. That'd be the segments. Well, this has got the same thing. A, B, C, D, E, F. Was it 2-digit? I think it was, actually. Was it? So that's the LED display. Ah. Would they be doing something to change? Yeah, it was, because I think it went down to channel 16 when I... It's got IJ, so maybe they've just lettered the thing. I wonder if I should just return that to normal. I wonder what it actually does. I don't know, well, I guess I can check what mode it's in with a quick continuity check. Some sort of resistance to that. And some sort of, maybe that's just this. What would it need a ground? But I assume it's to disable something in this chip, most likely to disable the channels from running, from being able to be changed. So how on earth did they change channels on these things then? You usually did it on the handpiece, I think. I wonder if, is this remote control? Must be, surely. Oh, there's the band switch LEDs. There are some there. I didn't see anything lighting up before. I thought they should have some somewhere. I'm not sure how that consumer that's using it, I'm sure they would have had a selection of channels to choose from. I think they usually had Ozstar and whatever pay TV in there as well, Foxtel or Ozstar, one or the other, or some sort of channels like that. Or maybe that was the only thing. I've been so long I can't remember now. I better check that still. I think we'll get rid of that. Well, before I chop it right off, let's, I guess, see if we can get this thing to run. See if we can get RF back into it. Load on. Oh yeah, the VL light is lit if you look. Oh no, I've lost vertical again. What the friggin'... I know what it is. Of course, right where that picture tube sits, we've managed to switch it into bloody service mode, haven't we? Because the switch is right there. That'd be friggin' right. Managed to recreate the fault it had before by fiddling around with it. Yeah, we can change it down to 16, up to 1, 2, back to that. Channel 3, band select, UHF. Oh yeah, there we can get VHL, VHI, UHF. Anyway, that's working, that's all I care about. So I think I've returned it back to its normal state, which I should have done. So I'm going to snip off the wires off that switch and maybe even remove it altogether. Oh, actually, I wonder that switch would have been to... I wonder if that locked the user out of it until they paid for it or something. They probably had to get the nurse or whatever to unlock it on the back. That's what that would have been. So it would have locked out any channel operation or something. Does that have a ring that undoes? No, it comes from the inside. That's probably what that was. That was probably just to lock the functions out of operation. Say you couldn't use their TV, you could turn it on and probably just get a snowy picture or something. Well, you think, oh, it's got all these great AV connections and stuff. But actually it hasn't, and the fact someone's written all over this cover, I wonder if they've been fiddling around under there or something. That's just the IF. I can see the SAW filter and IF chip, so I would assume, but where are all the connections? I would assume that board should have a bunch of other connections into the output of this IF. Can't see any connectors in there, so it wouldn't be in that case, I wouldn't think, but now I can't get this damn cover back on. So that goes to the front, that's the volume control. Let's think, we've got somewhere that would have to be an output of this IF, would be the video, before it gets into this. Well, there used to be a P004 there. A blue wire there. Orange wire, that could be something to do with it. Or would they have gone up spare wires here somewhere? I doubt it. Because that's going to the vertical hold. They're connected to the brightness. They're connected to vertical hold and brightness. And that's the contrast. Another 3 going to the pots, going to the pots. We've got an earth, goes into the pots. So we're missing resistors. Oh yeah, there's a couple of wires would have gone there, I guess. A couple more wires there. Yeah, they go to the switch. 17 and 26, I guess they're not labelled the same on the board anyway. Ooh, we've got a 23 that's missing. 22 that's missing. 26, 25, 19, 20. I can see, of course, 23, 22. Capacitor there. Oh, what's that? That's 20 is this brown wire which goes to somewhere else. Oh, because these are AV, aren't they? Did I see 20 here? I'm sure I did. 19. Yeah, 20. What's the bet that's something to do with the audio? Oh, that actually goes to this other switch. What on earth? Maybe it just goes through to there. Goes through a resistor to this socket here, which is audio in. I told you. So that's audio in. If that was out, there would have to be another audio in from the main IF. That goes to something like 19 there, I think, which was another one up there. Ah, yes, a 19 and 20. If we put 20 in, where's 19 gone? That's way over here. Yeah, that's it. 19 is the audio out of the main TV, possibly. And what's this other one? That's got to be the other audio connection. Audio out, yeah, there you go. So this brown wire here would, if I split in, let's pull that out and run 2 wires up to here, we may get an audio switching. And if I can find the video, which is one of these other links, I guess. That's 13. It goes to an inductor on 20. Oh, 22 is just not connected there. 12, not connected. It'll be around this chip somewhere, I would assume. What's this blue wire is most likely it. 25 to 28 maybe? Or 26, that would be them. I bet if we cut this blue wire in half, bingo, that'd be video out of your IF. I can find a circuit easy enough with one of those TDAs in it, or TAs. So they've just linked this out. Yeah, I've got to be careful I don't bump the tube here. Is that got some sort of, yeah, some sort of hex, little tiny Allen key there to stop you undoing it. That's the next one I've got. That's too small, surely. Oh no, that's it. So that's a tiny little, I don't know, 1 mil or 0.9 mil or something. God. I'll take that right out and throw it away because I'm not going to use it again. I'm trying to think where I've seen that stuff. Oh, what did they use them on? It's kind of like the ones, those enclosed ones on kettles or some other things. some electrical thing, I think. Uses those kind of connectors that are sort of hidden inside something so you can't touch them, but not what I'm thinking of. Oh, come on. Well, they did it up nice and tight, but I guess since it holds the TV to the ceiling, that was probably a good idea. I guess in some ways I should keep that as part of the original TV, but I'm not really a fan. Get rid of all these random wires and stuff. So that's unplugged, so that's the antenna socket and power connections. Whether that's isolated or anything, I don't know, but chuck that away. And might as well screw this back together. I guess the other thing is I should hook the power back onto this. I don't think it reaches onto that power socket, 12-volt power socket. Still not sure where the original power supply sat in this thing. There's not really room for one. Must have been over here somewhere, I guess. This little, maybe a little switch mode board or something. Would be good to find the original manual just to see what these things actually were, how they were set up and all that sort of thing. Okay, see if we can get this antenna socket unscrewed and just have a quick look. Probably could actually re-terminate it, maybe, I don't know. Looks like it's kind of soldered on and crimped on, but it probably is possible to redo it with enough heat. Or maybe I've got to replace it with something new. At least it's not live chassis or anything, or not in its current mode anyway. Yes, that's the antenna socket out of it. Cable cut right off. I'll see if I can open that up. Looks like it's just soldered there and there, or yeah, it's not soldered right round. And if you can unprise that crimped a bit, might be able to pull that back and re-solder even that other bit of wire that I just was attached to that other socket would probably do it. Plug it again. If we can get this power socket off. That's original, that bolt there. Oh yeah, must be, because it's undid it. Yes, as it would have been wires there for the mains, I guess. I wonder if they, again in the factory, didn't bother. Maybe they didn't even bother hooking this up at the factory. It doesn't look like it's. Oh wait, the AC. Oh, of course the AC comes out there. I was going to say that's all DC switching down there, so they had never been soldered to. So whatever they had as an original power supply in these, it never got one. They obviously got them sent to Australia minus those bits, which makes sense because you don't have to pay for it and then pull it out and throw it away, I guess. I'll just pull that wire off that switch for now. Come on, metal fatigue, do your thing. And the other thing I'm thinking while I've got this apart, I don't know how the degaussing is meant to work. I haven't actually even screwed this in, have I? Just wonder if I can get away without actually unplugging all the tube again. Let's get the degausser out. I don't know if it's that plug next to it or it came in somewhere else, but and I'm not sure if it's got some. I don't think these things have a thermistor. I think you just basically short them across the 12 volts or something, but I could be wrong. Although then again, they normally AC, aren't they? If it's a coil, maybe just putting DC into it is enough to make enough magnetic field just build and collapse it as you press that button on and off. Yeah, it looks like it does go to that connector. God, these little tubes, they're always a risk of getting broken. So one side of it goes to ground, other side goes to that pin. Other pin goes to an orange wire there, which goes. Where the f does that go? It goes across to this region here, 14 it must be. And then it's got 2 resistors, so is that anything to do with it? They're only puny little resistors by the look of it. I just wondered if the switch switches across that bit. Oh, well, there's a brown wire there as well. Oh, cool. Oh, J3 maybe it is. Which one goes in a J3? Neither of them by the look of it. Oh yeah, the brown wire's 14, so I guess the other one's probably J3. I guess I better continuity check it. Definitely make sure they're connected, which of course they aren't. There you go. Oh yeah, this goes, this J3 comes to a capacitor to ground, a resistor. No idea. I wouldn't think they'd pump any horizontal circuit or anything into there, surely. But we know at least one of those pins is definitely for degaussing, but whether the switch... So that switch, I'm pretty sure they've disconnected some wires, I'm not sure. Maybe it's never been touched. I don't think I've ever looked at one of these little TVs where the degauss, because they've never played up where the degauss signal comes from. I assume that little R24 or whatever it is, a tiny 1/8 resistor, 1/8 watt resistor. So I don't think you'd have that in series with a degaussing coil. Like 57k or something, which isn't even a normal resistor value, but it goes off all over the place. So I don't think that's got anything to do with degaussing necessarily. It's more likely to have come from the 12 volts or something, I think. And a lump of brown glue to get rid of, so yeah, I don't think we'll worry about the degaussing too much at the moment, but at least I know it is connected between ground and that pin on that connector, the one closest to the degaussing coil connector. So this board can go back in and can always solder to that pin or something if need be. Just socket back on, and the degaussing back in. And there's not a lot else I can do right now, but I will. Might see if I can find a circuit for this thing somewhere. And I better plug those controls back in, and then I can think about whether I try and tap into the AVs. I don't really have a use for this thing, I just thought it's an interesting little set. Didn't cost much. And yeah, at least we know if anyone's thinking of buying one of these things, don't expect all those AV sockets to work, or the degaussing, or even the antenna connection. Okay, so I've actually hooked the power socket up. Green and black wires like that, green on 5, black on 6. They just go across this socket, which is still switched by the main socket, even though nothing connected to that, so I can use a DC connector when I put this back on the panel from the outside, but I'll just leave it loose for now so I can at least access it easily and it's not hanging, don't have to plug a plug into the side there. And the antenna socket, I managed to basically tear the little crimped off pieces on the back of it off. It was going to be very hard to get the whole back piece off, so I just tore them off, pulled the old wire out which left the center conductor there, and just soldered basically the center conductor of that cable that was on the one that they'd added for the hospital use. I just cut that little RCA lead off, soldered the center conductor to the center conductor on the socket, and then the two, I just twisted it into two sort of outer bunches of the shielding on this cable, and solder that to the metal housing of that on the back where it was sort of torn off, and that should be fine. It's a little bit unshielded, I could put a bit more around it if I was really worried, but I think that'll do for now, so I can at least plug a normal RF lead into it easily. And power, which I guess I probably should get the power on it, even though it'll probably drop off here and there because these plugs are not the greatest. And let's see, put the load on. Yeah, it sounds like we've got something. I guess I could even hook the power switch up, but Yeah, no, I don't know. That wouldn't be a bad idea in some ways, I guess, but I've got a raster, then I need a pattern generator. Hopefully this thing's still all tuned in. So it's been a couple of days since I last looked at it. And it was channel 2. Oh, got a red screen. Where'd it go? So what I was going to quickly do is look at these wires that come across that I found and see if we do actually have video and audio on them. So the tuner's a good convenient earth, or sometimes I just clip onto like these IF can things. That's the end of the blue wire. I don't know about, oh yeah, because we're on red. I was going to say I can see a sync pulse already, but where's our bars? So there's the one next to it. Always look for the staircase pattern, and definitely that blue wire has a video signal on it by the look of it. Just get the oscilloscope set a bit better because it's flicking and carrying on. Probably need the high frequency reject thing. Yep, that's definitely got a video. And what are we on? Half a volt a division. I'll say that is around a volt. Oh no, a bit more than that. Half a volt a division. That's why that other socket there has a booster transistor or something, I reckon. This is more like, this will be handy. Oh, I can go from the top. 2, 4.5 divisions. So it's about 2 and a bit volts. Let's say roughly 2 volts peak to peak video there. So this TV is not going to just work that well off your average 1 volt peak to peak, I would think. And what was the other wire I said? It was a brown one here. Brown wire there. Do we have an audio signal? Well, we have a something there. Let's wind that down a bit and change the settings. Yeah, we have our 1 kilohertz. And that is just over a volt peak to peak, so the audio is probably about the same. So they've kept that the same, but so that proves my theory that if we cut that brown wire, cut that blue wire, we definitely should be able to inject video into this thing. It should, and pull video off the tuner if you'd ever want that, which is unlikely in the modern world. It's handy if you'd, in the old days, chaining a few of these together and you want them to all display the same thing. I don't know why you'd want it on little TVs like this. I doubt even in a hospital situation you'd want to do that. But that's what we need to know. I'd never found a circuit for this thing. There is another model. It's a Day, not a Daewoo, what was it? I forgot what it was called now. That's the problem with doing things a few days apart, but a Dyson, a Daytech, a Day something. I'll put it in on the screen or something, but there was a Day something, and it's in a silver case. It's got the same looking AV socket and switches on the end of it. The front is not push button. I think it's just a manual tuner type thing with like a radio dial or something going down. But it is made by Daewoo, so I'm assuming it's an earlier version of this TV. Whether it's got the same circuit board and stuff in it is a whole other matter. But that was the closest I could find. There's absolutely nothing that I could search on the internet, and looking in sites with service manuals and stuff, couldn't find anything on a 5-inch other than this one that had been sold. It's an American one, I think. There's been a few of them sold, but again, no manuals, circuits, anything like that. So I came to a dead end there, but at least I thought I'll just put the oscilloscope on there so we know the audio should be able to just break in. I don't think there was anything on that socket board. That basically will just switch through to the sockets. 1 volt peak to peak should be about standard. But we also should have around 1 volt peak to peak of video there. But the TV's on 2, so I wonder if there was an attenuator. It's probably got some of those resistors and stuff where they'd have to attenuate the output. You would think between the switch would switch the output socket, I guess, through some sort of attenuation if you're going to use it as an output to other things. And it would also have to have, like you could see on that socket, a transistor, hole on the board for a transistor to basically boost the incoming video up to about 2 volts, 2.5 or 2 1/4, whatever that came, yeah, 2 1/4 it would have come out to. So it's a little bit of work involved, but you could convert one of these to AV it probably isn't that hard to work out what the actual transistor is. It's probably just a standard NPN C1501 kind of thing. You just have to work out some resistor values, I guess. The other question is there won't be any voltages going up to this board, I guess, unless they were pinching it off one of those controls. Well, I think all those other lines just went to the pot, so I can see an earth. It looks like the earth is connected at least once, if not twice. So there may be another line, one of these other pins that's meant to come up here. And yeah, there's the transistor. I can see on the back of the board. Actually, there's two transistors on the back of the board. What does the other one go to? It's something to do with the audio. Ah, so maybe the audio did have a buffer transistor or something as well. So with a little bit of fiddling around, or if you had some sort of external booster amp or something, but I'm assuming if I put video straight into this, it's not going to be the prettiest. I just wonder whether I should cut in and just see what it looks like out of the pattern generator straight into this thing. It's probably going to look a bit washed out and low contrast is my guess at that voltage peak to peak, but it may well work. But I assume they have those transistors. They might just be buffers, but maybe not. But at least I know my deduction was right, that this blue wire from, what was it, 20 or something, I forget what the pin numbers were, I can't even see it properly, 25 I think that is, or was it 26? One of them was 26, the other one is it 25? I forget what they were up on the, there's 26 up on the switchboard and socket board. And I forget where the other one went. And then the audio, whatever I said before, which is, that's 20 across to 19. So 19 and 20 are the audio, and 20, very hard to read, maybe it was 25 and 26 or something were the video. 25, yeah, there is a 25 there that goes to one of the switches. I go through a resistor to the base of another transistor. For that transistor, it looks like this goes through a cap. Oh no, that is the other video socket. I think that's right. The two sockets aren't set up. I'm thinking they're two video next to each other, but from memory, they're the inside two connectors. Oh no, one's audio. So it's video outer, video on the right sockets, right hand sockets from where I'm looking at it. On the back of the board. So it goes through a capacitor to a transistor. Yeah, that is definitely hooked to that out or in, whichever one that one was. Oh yeah, the other one goes through a transistor. That's the emitter, so is that the in on this side? I'd have to assume so. Yeah, that's the in, and this one's actually goes through another buffer transistor to the video out, interestingly. Oh, and though that may be because I guess, oh no, it switches though, doesn't it? I was going to say if it wants to run simultaneously. I don't know whether, yeah, it's possible those like monitors out that go to another TV, that's what you normally use them for. So they may run simultaneously with the TV, so you need to buffer that output. I'm thinking they're actually switching between them, breaking the link, but they may stay live even when those are selected as the inputs. You may still have IF out coming out here, almost like an amplifier with a pre-out, and so you could almost put like something in the line there between the IF and the monitor, like a little effects generator or something. Could be set up that way. But at least I've got some sockets hooked up. Of course the power goes off as soon as I lift it up. Oh dear, that didn't sound too happy. Change channel, that's why. Where are we to? Yeah, we're back. I think I'll flick that off. But at least I can put the lid on this now. With the power sockets in place, with the antenna socket in place. So back to the normal socket on the back. I'll screw that one back in place. And it's basically a usable TV if I put 12 volts into it and antenna. But if you're ever thinking, if you see one of these for sale anywhere, they're not going to be an awful lot of use by the look of it. You're not going to have all those AVs working and stuff as you would expect when you look at the picture of the thing, or the side of it. If you see it in person, you're going to go, oh, look at all those nice AV connections it's got. And unfortunately, none of them are going to work. If it's one of these hospital ones, and I'm yet to see any version of these TVs that isn't one of these hospital ones, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. They may have been imported separately as a normal functional television. But yeah, it's odd I couldn't find anything under AWA, so it's quite possible these were sold under a different brand as well, because there were a few different brands of portable televisions out there. And things like this often might have been made by AWA but came out under Rover or Tandy or whatever they call their TVs, Realistics or Microntas or something. I think Micronta was their test gear actually, but or Intertan was another brand they used to put on consumer goods, I think. That's better. At least I don't have to mess around now to get the thing at least running as a basic RF monitor. They never want to go back together. And there we have it. But anyway, thanks for watching. But yeah, I might get around to doing something with it one day to run on AV, but it shouldn't be too hard to come up with a little transistor circuit. I was looking at a Philips CF1, which I've got to finish a video on, that has a similar sort of setup with outs and ins, but it's a rather weird setup the way they've done it. And it's got RGB input on it as well, and it's kind of weird the way they've set it up, so I've got to do a bit more investigation on that. But that would have a similar circuit, I reckon, with the buffer transistors, so you could probably copy something like that in this one and get those working. I say I wouldn't care too much about video out, but it'd be nice if you could switch that and kill the IF and get the AVs to work on it though. This one's a bit rough with the big crack in the corner there. And there should be a plastic screen to go over it, and needs a good clean. It's rather disgusting looking at. To look at, I should say. And I didn't hook the power switch up with that. Yeah, again, doesn't really matter, but it's a nice little shelf unit, if nothing else. Just an interesting TV. And yeah, basically the death of the AWA brand name when Mitsubishi took over. And I will have to do a video on looking at all the earlier AWA chassis, because I found a model chassis list for those. But anyway, thanks for watching.